We didn't really get too much time to parse through the team in particular who got beaten at the weekend. I'm delighted to say Tommy Walsh is with us. Tommy, good morning to you. How are you getting on?
Good morning, Ger.
We want to talk specifically about Cork and their performance last weekend. Last week on the show, we talked about Cork, and you laid out the case for the things that Cork needed to do to either win the game or just to impress on you that they were going in the right direction. And it was like they were playing a challenge match in many aspects, that they didn't do any of the things that you would expect a team, especially now, who looks at the template of all the successful teams, which is hooking and blocking and tackling and defending from the front. They didn't do any of that.
Yeah, well, I suppose when you look at the difference what a year makes, Liam Cahill coming into Waterford, Ger, like right from the very beginning, we knew what Liam Cahill brought. He dropped the two of their main players, Maurice Shannon and Noah O'Connor, for the last, probably 10 years. They've been the mainstay and main kind of, I suppose Maurice Shannon has a target man. I know he used to come on, but he was like Jim Gavin. They weren't really substitutes. They were kind of game changers, if you like. And that's the role Maurice Shannon played for a long time. You get the ball in long to him, get it in short. It didn't really matter. He could do it. Noah O'Connor is the same. He was captain at the time, had done it year after year. He produced the goods. And he was willing to drop these two guys. There's, most guys coming in, you'd say, hold on a minute now, we might need these lads. I don't want to rough it up too much. It's my first year as manager. I'm an outside manager as well. I want to keep everyone on side. No, Cal came in, set with thought from the very beginning. And we've seen the difference. And, I predicted it myself in my own, head when looking at the game, that no matter what happens here Saturday, this Waterford team is going to be tough. They're going to be hard. They're going to be everything that Liam Cahill is. And that's what we've seen. So what am I trying to say really is that we probably shouldn't be too shocked in regards to Cork. You have to see it from the very start. It's not like a light switch where you're toddling along playing one style of hurling, and suddenly then on a particular day you can turn into this ferocious hooking and blocking machine, physical, everything that we've been speaking about. It has to be done from January. It has to be done from February, March. You have to change it from the very outset. And I suppose, we it was different this year with the pandemic. We didn't see a whole lot of hurling, but I wasn't after, seeing that different, I suppose, a whole lot about the team. I know you have to pick probably particular players as well and set out a stall. So I just didn't think that it was probably going to happen with Cork. Now we have to look at as well, Jared, like everybody has their strengths, right? And everyone has their weaknesses. And you hear the whole, I suppose, team thrown out there about this Cork team, maybe that they're too soft or this or that. I don't buy into that. I just think it's a skill set that they need to acquire. And the example I give you would be Seamus Callan and TJ Reid. Like TJ Reid was one of these players, kind of like the Cork forwards. His whole focus was to go around scoring points, doing things, the most beautiful things you could do with a ball. That was his primarily focus. But that all changed around 2013 after he got that knee injury against Galway in 2012. From then on, he just totally dedicated himself to the gym, totally dedicated to himself, just not on the ball, but off the ball as well. And we've seen he transformed himself from being, a very good hurler who was kind of on and off the Kenny team to one of the greatest hurlers now that has ever played the game. Seamus Callan, last year, you go back to the first or second league game when they played against Clare, he chased a man from 40, 50 yards. There was no reason to do it whatsoever, and hooked the guy. And I just felt, and Seamus Callan in his early years was a similar type player to TJ Reid in that he could do the most beautiful things with the ball, but rarely you would see him putting in that kind of a challenge, that kind of a tackle. And look at the consequences. Absolutely brilliant for both their teams, both Tipperary and Kilkenny. So, Ger, I think it's just a thing that is going to have to be trained into these Cork guys, but it's not going to happen in a week or two. It has to be done from January or February.
And there's no evidence that they've been working on this and that was a bad day. Like you predicted it in advance. Obviously, you hadn't seen anything in the league that suggested they had become a team who was going to adopt that skill set and tactic.
Sure, listen, there's no point. I could come out with statements here, all right, but it's I don't like. I think that'd be guessing it to be bad punditry. We haven't seen him. Like, what did we see in the league? Only 2 or 3 games, I suppose. Like, so we've nothing to go on here. So I just don't know. The only lads that could really answer this is whoever's been looking at Cork training since they went back. Like, they've all went off to their clubs. Like, I seen Conor Lehane in a county final for Middleton scoring 2-11, 2-12. Like, that's as tough and as hard as you can absolutely get. Like, we've seen what Horgan has done for Glen Rovers. We've seen what Harnedy has done for Immakilly. So these players have done it on the biggest stage, but I don't know. I'm not privy to what is going on in their training, but if they haven't been doing it in training, you can't expect it to happen in a match. And it goes back to the simple thing, and it's you can look at stats and hooks and blocks all you want. I think you use your own eyes, and you will know. If you see, I said it before the last match, if you were watching the Sunday game Sunday night, which I was only able to do, to be honest, Jerry, because I was at the doubleheader in Cork on Saturday, and if we see it on the Sunday game, one of these guys, Harnedy or Lehane or Horgan or Cadigan, running 20 yards, getting in a hook they shouldn't have got, a dive and block, maybe shovel out over the line, I just think that's the missing piece for them. To go to them. Like, they have won Munsters. Like, this isn't a bad team. They have won a lot of games in Munster. They've won, I suppose it was a while ago now in 2013, they won that All-Ireland semi-final. But for them to go on and do what Cork want them to do, which is basically ultimately winning All-Ireland, I think that's the skill set they have to bring to their game.
That's fair enough.
How do you find that?
How do you find the training? So you'll have to introduce, you nearly want to be in a game, say a game type situation, because you can do the drills all you want, but that's merely to get yourself ready for the game. So maybe certain few, I suppose, them type drills in training, but ultimately it's the game in training. It's where you really see it, because I always find in a drill, you're told go from A to B. So you're told, right, tackle, there's 2E in a tackling drill. Tackle, you have no choice, you have to do it. It's you versus your man. You're an inter-county player, so you're going to have that mindset that you're not going to just stand by your side and let your man win the ball. So in that type of a scenario, it's just maybe to get them into the habit, but the real learning curve is in the matching training. So this could be a case where you blow up the training after 5 minutes if you haven't seen what you want to see. So if Kieran Kingston is refereeing the training session, we'll say, and after 5 or 10 minutes, he just sees guys going, not even going through the motions, but maybe just going around doing all these great runs, but with the ball. But if he's trying to implement this defensive, so it was always in our mindset, the defending started with number 15, who was probably our best defender in Taggy Fogarty. And that probably came from Brian Cody setting out his mantra, setting out that tone in training. So from minute 1 in training, if things weren't going well, and we could be scoring, like the TJs and the Henrys, they could be scoring left, right and centre. But if that ferocity off the ball wasn't there, training is blown up, and you're told a few home truths. Sure, next thing, lads are hooking left, right and centre. I was looking at a movie there last night on... I didn't get to see the end of it because it was about 11:15, but when it was over, Miracle, about a US ice hockey team. I think it was, I don't know if it's a true story or based on a true story or whether it's just fictional, but listen, it was like what goes on in every dressing room. Basically, the coach came in after the first half of one of the games and just started kind of, one lad was lying on the physio bed. He had a sore knee, but basically it was just a sore knee. He asked the doctor, listen, if he goes back on, is he going to do further damage? No, he said, but he won't be able to play because it's too sore. So he went in and basically questioned your man's character. He said, listen, I know you won't be able to go back out there. You won't be able to go through the pain. As he was going back out the dressing room, he winked at the assistant coach. So let's see the reaction now. So second half went out, your man was absolutely brilliant, tearing into everything. So, that's what I'm getting at. It's mindsets, it's mind games, but setting the tone in training, really.
It is a true story, Tommy. It's the Miracle on Ice. The full reel game is available on YouTube. It's a good watch.
Yeah, great. It's a great video. Looking forward to seeing the win it. I didn't see the end of it, so don't ruin it on me.
No spoilers, though. But it's called The Miracle on Ice, so hopefully that doesn't give away too much.
What can Cork do this week? They have a big game at the weekend, and they've got in a weird way, the way that Dublin came out of that game at half-time, it looked like they were going to be annihilated. They had a great second half and they seemed to find something. So not exactly who Cork would have wanted, a team who are coming out of a defeat actually quite confident.
Yeah, and to be honest, I'd say coming from where Cork are coming from, I would say the opposite. I'd say it's absolutely the game they needed. Like, what's the point in them, say, playing teams that they're much better than for the next couple of games and then getting steamrolled in an All-Ireland quarter-final or semi-final again? The recovery needs to start now. The soul-searching needs to start now. But really, the habits need to start now, Ger. So they're playing a team that, although they were beaten by a point or two by Kilkenny, their probably confidence levels are probably gone through the roof because of that second half. They now know that Eamon Dillon has to start. Like, he was brilliant. And Ronan Hayes, I thought, was brilliant when he came on as well, scored a fantastic goal. So their confidence is sky high. Donald Burke had another brilliant game from frees and, was roaming around. They weren't, Keane Ball and Sutcliffe, like, that second half for all of those Dublin players, and it's usually the last game that you remember. So they have the hurt of losing, but the confidence of hurling so well in that second half. No one will question their character. Like, Matty Kenny can't question their character now. So now they're coming from, a low base at half time in that game where, probably question what have they been doing for the last 2 or 3 years under Matty Kenny, to now seeing that they have that toughness, they have that skill, and most certainly they're able to beat any of the top teams. They proved that in Parnell Park against Galway last year. So I think this is the game that Cork needed if they're to win this and maybe do a few of the things that we've been asking of them to do. Well, it should only help them going forward because there's going to be huge challenges ahead for whether it's Dublin or Cork.
On the flip side, if Dublin were to win this, it would be an iconic victory for them against, one of the superpowers of the game. Granted, at a low ebb for them at the moment too. So big opportunity for Dublin this weekend.
It is a massive opportunity, and for Matty Kenny as well. I'd say there was no more a disappointed team than Dublin last year. You had the highs of Parnell Park after beating Galway. They had a brilliant league campaign that year as well. So everything seemed to be on the upper curve for Matty Kenny and his Dublin Chargers. This year now, there's a few of the old school are missing. Conal Keeney's not playing, David Tracy, Paul Ryan. So all the guys that would have been relied on and probably people felt Dublin couldn't do without. Suddenly Matty Kenny, he's thrown in these new guys, new young guns, and they're producing the goods. They had a brilliant victory over Laois a couple of weeks ago, a brilliant second half performance the last day. So it'd be absolutely brilliant for either of them to win, really, Ger, because like both of them, they're not in the top 3 or 4, but a small team could get in there.
Who's going to win?
Cork.
Right, okay, straightforward. I want to play you this, right? It's Kieran Carey. We had him on the show, I think, on Monday morning, and it was unusual to hear somebody in the GAA world talk so effusively about their own team. Have a listen to this.
I kind of made a prediction in early 2018 was Dublin towards inter-county football. Limerick are and will be the same in hurling, and it's going that particular way. And I think there's a lot of teams out there actually struggling still, even in the last 2 years, how to prevent Limerick or what kind of a system to put in place that might suit them. There's a lot of teams still struggling, and Limerick are 5 to 6 years perfecting and implementing the structure that they want to play. But not only that, they're tweaking it every so often as well, as we saw that yesterday in positional switches.
Traditionally, in the GAA world, we talk down our own county. Owen there will explain the whole art of Yerraism, but Kieran Carey's having none of it. As good and as dominant as the Dubs, maybe.
The first rule of inter-county hurling, Ger: do not listen to the media. So I'd say John Kiley is hoping none of his players are listening to that over the last couple of days, because sure, listen, there's two sides of looking at that, really. The first thing is you don't listen to it. If you're inside that Limerick camp, absolutely not. You're only as good as your last game. Limerick looked all conquering, all dominant this time last year. Were turned over by Tipperary first in the last round of the round robin. They were turned over by Kilkenny in the All-Ireland semi-final. The year before, they were turned over by Clare. The year they won the All-Ireland, they were turned over by Clare. I'd say it was down in Ennis by, I'd say it was 8 or 9 points. So this team can be defeated. And, you know, they would not want to buy into that mindset because there's always someone that will beat you. That Limerick team as well, they're absolutely brilliant and have been hurling brilliantly. But you look at their half-hour line of we'll say it was, I know Keane Lynch was there the weekend, but Kyle Hayes, Garrod Hegarty, and who was the other wing forward? You've Garrod Hegarty, Kyle Hayes, and geez, it escapes me there. I should know it, but Tom Morrissey. Like, if one of them was to get injured, it would totally change the way Limerick have been playing. If you look at it, and I was watching it closely again the weekend, when their big players in the half-hour line get the ball, they're able to bring it into the tackle and go out through it. Even when Kyle Hayes is in the backs, they're able to be swarmed, because swarm is the name of the game at the moment. You're tackling 3s and 4s. They're able to bring it out of them tackles. If they got 1 or 2 injuries to that half-hour line or midfield, they're a total different team. So listen, John Kiley is the very same as Cody, the very same as Sheedy. These guys are too clever for that. They will keep the guys in the camp well away from all that media stuff. But no, I wouldn't buy into that they can dominate for the next few years. There's too many good teams out there. What I would say is about Kieran Carey, and it's probably, I haven't heard too many inter-county hurlers talk about either, is the impact that an ex-inter-county hurler can have on your team. You know, some of them go down the road of giving out about their own team. Some of them praise them. I definitely think you do hear it back when you're inside in that bubble. You do hear about the ex-player, whether he praised you or whether he was giving out about you. You can use it as motivation or confidence. And I think it's very important. And Kieran Carey has never been anything, because I've been at 1 or 2 functions down in Limerick over the last few years as well. He's never been anything but complimentary to this squad. And this is a man that hasn't, you know, he's went to the height, you know, to the Mount Everest nearly of hurling personally himself. But as a team, they never got over the line. They were so unlucky. And he could have been bitter over that. But was he? No. He got behind this Limerick team before the $1 earned. He praised them. He gave them confidence. He puts everyone into his own club patch as well. And I think that's huge for not just Kieran Carey, but Gary Kirby, all the ex-Limerick players. It's huge. And it gives you huge confidence as a player. Like in our time, before we met it, we'll say, Eddie Kerr was the man. Everyone in Kilkenny loved Eddie Kerr. He was the god. He was the man that done it all, both individually and as a team. Won, 6 or 7 All-Irelands, won Hurlers of the Year, All-Stars, won it all. And he never had anything but praise. Remember 2012, Galway beat us in the Leinster final. And we were all being written off after the game. And we had a championship game against Ballyhale the following week down in Dunnamaggin. And I was playing, I think it was midfield. And after being, very poor in the Leinster final, a much better game this day. And Eddie Kerr came over to me after the game, at a club game, hand around the shoulder, you still have it, you're still hurling brilliant, don't worry about last Sunday. And on you go. And, it was an unbelievable lift. And definitely gave me huge confidence going into the next few weeks. I think we played Limerick in the championship. And it's that kind of a thing for the ex-hurler when he's backing you. It is brilliant. And, even when we lost the county final 2 years ago against Great Ballycallan, I was outside the library there, outside Super Valley, the shopping centre there in Kilkenny, that know it in Kilkenny. And Joe Hennessy comes over, arm around the shoulder, a few great words of encouragement. The ex-inter-county hurler is just what I'm trying to say. He has a big impact on the team. And, although what Harry said, listen, I don't know about him being dominant for the next few years. Yes, they have the potential to be, but it's all about the next game, the Munster final. And but I'm sure, it is great. His encouragement definitely gives great confidence to that panel.
Yeah, no doubt. Tommy, we're out of time, unfortunately. I could spend the next hour talking about Joe Hennessy quite happily, because he was my favourite hurler as a kid, and I can only imagine how confident you must have felt when he's coming over and saying, well, you've still got it, kid. I would be like, wow, that's amazing. Yeah. So listen, congratulations on that. Now, I don't mind about the All-Stars and the All-Irelands. Joe Hennessy thinking you still got it, man. That's all that counts. Tommy, good stuff. Great to have you with us. Thanks a million.
Thanks, Billy. Good luck. Bye.